was supposed to be Coach Drinkwitz and our student athletes talking about an exciting game against Iowa on Wednesday. But obviously here in the last 24 hours, it has taken a turn for the worse relative to COVID. And I'll turn it over, first of all, to Jim to make an opening statement. Then we'll have Eli with a few comments, and then we'll open it up for questions. So, Jim, I'll let you lead off.
Sure, I'll be pretty quick, but I wanted to echo what President Choi stated in our release that we just sent out. Just proud of this group of coaches and student athletes, and sorry to see it end this way, and especially because to going to Nashville and creating some positive news there, and thinking about those folks after the tragedy of last Friday. So, yeah, as Nick said, not something that we, or the way we wanted to end it, but it's something that we can't control, and we wanted to make sure that the health and safety of our coaches, our student athletes, stayed at the forefront. So with that, we had to make this decision along with the SEC and the Big Ten and Iowa.
Eli?
Yeah, I just want to echo what Jim said. First and foremost, want to say that we're disappointed. Was very excited about heading to Nashville and being a part of the Music City Bowl. Know that that's a tremendous bowl game, and really wanted to be a part of Nashville's healing and moving forward after the incident that occurred on Christmas morning. Disappointed and apologize to Iowa for not being able to get our guys to the finish line. We did everything within our power to try to move forward, but ultimately, with dealing with this virus, you have to put the health and safety and the well-being of not only your student athletes, but the community, our staff, at the forefront. And had this, just been any other time in the summer, we would have needed to pause. And so when that became apparent of what we needed to do, then that's what we did. I hate it for our team. Our team worked extremely hard to get to this bowl game. We're very excited about. We were very excited about the opportunity to compete, but we won't get that opportunity now. I do want to say this. If there's anybody to blame for this, it would fall on my shoulders as the head coach and the leader of this organization. It is by no means our players' fault or our organization's healthcare or protocols. We have followed those stringently since they've become an inception, and we have done everything possible. But if there was an easy way out of this predicament with this virus, I think the country would have already handled that. And so for us to be belittled or beleaguered on social media, or players to be challenged because they went home for Christmas is unfair. And if they want to direct that at anybody, ultimately, as the head coach, you can place that blame on my shoulders. But our players didn't do anything wrong. It's just unfortunate that we're going through a global pandemic. And with that, I'll open it up for questions.
All right. As we go to questions, please raise your hand and I will call on you. And then if you can also, when you give your first question, please state your name and your affiliation, please.
Great. Happy New Year.
Bill Pollock. Unmute yourself, Bill.
All right. Can you hear me okay?
There you go, Bill.
Sorry about that. I double clicked. Sorry about that. Bill Pollock with Missouri Net. Eli, you said you blame yourself. You talked earlier in the summer that, you could do everything possible and still get COVID. So can you clarify why you say blame you for this?
This is a world that likes to assign blame to everything. So if there's somebody to blame, ultimately it would be me as the leader of the organization. I don't feel like there's any personal thing that I could have done differently. We're experienced a high number of positive cases in the last 7 days that have affected support staff, and players. We have followed CDC guidelines to extremes. We've tested as in the SEC protocol. We've rapid antigen tested on top of what was standard protocol. We've done everything we could to try to prevent an outbreak, but we came up short on this one, and ultimately that rests with me.
Next question from Colin O'Brien.
Hey, Colin O'Brien, Jeff City News Tribune. Coach, there's been speculation that this is because players went home from Christmas, and I've also seen reports that, this was a result of the Mississippi State game. Can you offer any clarification onto the provenance of maybe this outbreak or where it's coming from?
Yeah, I'm not a scientist or an epidemiologist, and I didn't stay in a Holiday Inn last night. But what I do know is, we experienced when we returned back from Mississippi State, we had a positive case prior to going to Mississippi State. We subsequently contact traced. When we returned on Sunday, we tested, and we had several positives from that time. We allowed our team to travel home for the holidays after an extremely long season, which we started July 26th, and played a game all the way up until December 19th, and felt like it was in the best interest of our players' mental health to travel home, which we had done on the bye week. So it didn't feel like it was an extreme risk.
Thank you.
Didn't feel like it was a risk. But then when we came back, we had several positives in the first test, and then we had several more positives in the next test. And at that point, it became a local county health officials and team doctors decision that we needed to pause for 7 days to try to prevent the spread and prevent any more outbreak, and for us to try to travel this team to Nashville would put the public health at risk. And so that's really where the decision making lied. I appreciate the fact that there's a chain of command and there's a separation. Our staff and players wanted to forge on. We were committed to trying to do everything possible. This has nothing to do with total numbers, scholarship numbers, anything like that. This is a local county health and doctors' decision that we pinned it. We posed a public health risk if we were to continue to practice and move forward. So that's what it was. As far as whether or not it was because we let our guys go home for Christmas, if you follow the science of COVID-19, I believe it says that it's going to be 2 to 5 days from exposure. So unless they were exposed on their first day home to the virus, or they encountered a very large viral load, I'm not sure that you can equate where you got the virus from. And I'll also just, again, I know there's a lot of social media warriors out there that have all the answers. But if we knew all the answers about COVID, I would think that we probably would have enacted those in the United States of America and wouldn't continue to have an outbreak that's, the largest it's ever been. But what do I know? I'm a football coach.
We'll go to Ben Arnett. He's back from Wichita.
Ben Arnett, KOMU TV here in Columbia. Coach, I'm sure you've had seasons end many different ways, but this is unprecedented. Kind of a message do you give to your team to try to maybe soften the blow or anything like that?
Yeah, I mean, there's no softening the blow when you end a season the way we had to end it. But you just up front with them and tell them, like I said, this is the 8th out of the 10 games, or 8 out of 11 games that have changed time, dates, location, variation of game besides the entire schedule. I think it's just a pretty much ending of 2020 season. I did tell this team how extremely proud of them I am, how they have fought and been resilient in the face of every challenge that we've thrown at them, how they've done what we've asked them to do repeatedly, how proud I believe this state and our university is of the fight that they showed. We were picked 13th. We finished 6th in the league. All right. We were picked to win 2 games. You could have made a couple $1,000s had you bet on, the over on our over under, So I'm extremely proud of our football team. And when you look around that room today, there's a lot of empty seats, and those guys kept fighting and showed up and every day went out there and played their butt off. And so I'm proud of them. They're disappointed. I'm disappointed, but said thank you to the seniors and told the juniors and sophomores and freshmen that now they know, what it's going to be like to play for us and our culture and what the new zoo stands for, and look forward to getting them back January 17th, ready to roll.
Dave Matter?
Eli, I was going to touch on the schedule. I know you can't have any team activities through the 2nd, but is there kind of a plan going forward what the next stage is?
Yeah, I mean, the next stage for us is we'll conduct testing again tomorrow and Tuesday. Today's Sunday? Yeah, tomorrow and Tuesday with everybody to try and find out what the exposure is and where we can stop it. We've began contact tracing and trying to isolate any individuals that have come in contact, but there will be no activities here until the 2nd. And then once we get the isolation and the testing and all that situated, then we'll be making arrangements for guys to be able to go home until the start of the next semester.
We'll go to Mitchell 40.
Eli Mitchell 40 from Power Mizzou. I know, you're working with several parties, not just, the Iowa and the Big Ten and the SEC, but also the bowl game. But was there any chance this game could have been, postponed and tried to be played at a later date?
I wasn't involved in any of those discussions.
Yeah, I'll just jump in on that. In talking to Scott Ramsey, the bowl director, they had explored other options, but with the Titans schedule that they had to cancel. Basically, they couldn't move it to another date.
Eric Blum?
Eric Blum, Columbia Daily Tribune. Eli, I know you said this is an unprecedented season. Is the feeling now for you and your team, do you think some combination of relief, or is it disappointment you couldn't play in a bowl game? You said it was kind of a celebration of getting to this point in the season. I'm just curious where kind of the heartbeat of the locker room is at this moment.
Yeah, there was definitely disappointment. We'd worked really hard. Obviously, this team wasn't allowed to go to a bowl game last year. And so for us to qualify for a bowl game, to earn, there's some other teams that were given. We earned a bowl trip. And for us to earn it and then not be able to fulfill that, I think was disappointing. But I tried to refocus our team on what we have accomplished this year, what we did do, beating a ranked team at home, beating the defending national champions, and winning 5 games. I think is a heck of a start for us moving forward, and something that we're going to be anxiously awaiting to build on as soon as we get these guys back on January 17th.
Ben Hockman?
Benjamin Hockman, the St. Louis Post-Dispatch. Eli, just wanted to ask you if you can think back to preseason. Can you believe that you even got this many games in?
Nope, I can't. I mean, I distinctly remember the weekend where there was a Twitter storm of let us play, and it looked like there was no opportunity for us to find a way. I think there's other sports that, teams got 2 months left in their year and are opting out and not finishing. And for us to, be here on December 27th and I hate to be like this. It looks like this thing catches every team at some point. It's just a matter of how long you can dodge it. It's unfortunate for us that we caught it now instead of earlier, and it is what it is. But no, I'm thoroughly impressed with our administration, Owen Stanley, our athletic trainer, and all the different things that we had to do. This travel with COVID and being on planes and buses for an extended period of time is extremely difficult. We tried to take every precaution we could, but obviously it wasn't foolproof. And I've said this before, I don't think there's anything foolproof, because if there was, I think the United States would have tried it.
We'll go to Suichi.
Hey, Eli, Suichi Tirada with the KC Star. I'm just wondering, at what point do you kind of reflect on the season as a whole, just after everything you've mentioned? And I guess, what are your next steps in terms of just the next few days? And are you looking toward next season, or I guess what kind of goes into there?
I'm a process oriented kind of person. So this morning my process was working on third downs and short yardage and goal line, and it kind of wrapped that up, and was working on scripting that when the final news was starting to roll. So I think it'll take me a couple of days to decompress and kind of see where we're at. See what was good, see what was bad. Ultimately, there's still a gap between Mizzou and the upper tier. We finished third in the SEC East, but the two teams in front of us, we were only competitive for the first half. In both of those games, we were in it in the first half. In the third and fourth quarter, we fell off. And so I've got to figure out what are the next steps for this program to close that gap. And that will keep me up and get me working until I get the staff back here and we get our players back here. We're still actively recruiting right now and spending the remaining moments of time. I'll spend tonight on the phone with recruits. This is a 24/7, 365 job. So the season is ending, but that doesn't mean the job ends. The recruiting and the rebuilding and revisioning and recasting of what we're going to do work will begin tonight.
We'll go with Max Baker next.
Max Baker, the Columbia Missourian. Coach, I guess just after players tested positive in the next round of tests after Mississippi State, how did you weigh the options of keeping players on campus, kind of like what Iowa chose to do, and then also sending players home for their mental health, as you said earlier?
Yeah, I have no idea what Iowa chose to do. They didn't play December 19th. I'm not comparing what we did with Iowa. We didn't send anybody home that was positive. Anybody who tested positive, we did what the local CDC guidelines are and followed through with the contact tracing. Again, I'm not an epidemiologist, but what I do know about the virus is you can be exposed to the virus, and you, depending on the viral load and your body's immunities, may not begin shedding the virus or display symptoms or show up on a test for up to 14 days. So I don't think we could have done anything differently or weigh the options of players' mental health any differently. We chose what to do. I chose what to do. If allowing our players who sacrificed so much throughout this season to play 10 games, if allowing them to go home for Christmas ultimately cost us the ability to play in a bowl game, I'll live with that choice.
Jack Sobel.
Eli, besides the obvious and Jack Sobel with the manager, sorry. Besides the obvious and Connor Bazelak, who are some players that you think have kind of emerged as building blocks for the future, along with the new recruiting class?
I'll have to think about that. Obviously, I think this whole team is going to be a building block for the future. I think the one thing that I've learned this year, as much as anything, is that everybody has to be ready to contribute each and every week, and everybody's going to have to find their role on this football team. And some roles are bigger than others, and some guys are still going to have to develop and grow into their roles and utilize their natural God-given abilities in a larger space. Obviously, Connor being one of them. But there's a lot of people that I'm excited about. I mean, Tyler Beatty's going to have an opportunity to really expand what he's been able to contribute this year. And Toski Dove, and excited to get the news about Kiki Chisholm coming back. So, there's still a bright future ahead of us. And, I think we just touched the surface of it. Obviously, to finish 5-5 in this league and that schedule, I didn't see your predictions at the start of the year, Jack, but I doubt you had us winning 5. So I do think we got a big, bright future ahead of us. Jack, did you have us winning 5 or no? Be honest.
I don't think I had an official prediction at the start of the year. Sorry.
You didn't? No. If you had an official prediction at the start, would it have been 5? If you could go back in time.
I don't know, Coach.
All right, Brooke, you're up next.
Brooke Grimsley with KMOV in St. Louis. Just some clarification, Eli, did the team rejoin on December 25th at 9? I know you had mentioned that prior to you guys breaking up. And then also, did you guys have practice? So Friday, Saturday, and then today was the first day the practice was called off for the team. And also those who have tested positive, are they experiencing any symptoms such as just mild or any of those associated with COVID-19?
All right, a lot of clarification there. So I'm gonna go one at a time, Brooke, and if I miss anything, just let me know and I will hit it up. We returned on December 25th. When we returned on December 25th, we all took a rapid antigen test so that we would have the results of that test immediately. We also took a PCR test, a polychain reaction, I think that's what it's called, test. We got the results of the rapid antigen test immediately. We had several positives in that, began immediately isolating those individuals, but wanted to confirm those because they do have, I wouldn't say a high number, but they do have a percentage of false positives. So we wanted to confirm those with the PCR test. We did not practice on the 25th. We wanted to make sure that those tests came back before we would expose anybody else to that. The next day, we came in the morning, took another PCR test, had meetings and a practice. And following that practice is when we were made aware that we are starting to have some positives. Because the number was higher than normal, they reran the tests. We isolated everybody that came back as positive. We have not had any test result come back over double digits all year. This was the first time that we did. So at that point, they reran those tests. Today, when we got that those rerun tests again, we had to turned it over to the experts, and the experts combined with the rapid antigen test on Christmas Day, tracing back all the way to the Mississippi State game on that Monday, decided that we are likely encountering an outbreak. We tested again today, and we will have those results, and we will test again tomorrow and Tuesday, like I stated. Do we have symptoms? Was that the next question, along with COVID?
Yeah. Is it just mild symptoms? Anybody having any more, harder symptoms than that?
Yeah, so far we've experienced only mild symptoms associated with COVID-19. I do have some staff members who have tested positive that are experiencing, I wouldn't say any more difficulty, but not as mild as maybe some of the others. And that's probably the hardest part because their families are affected. But we
Hi, Greg Palermo from Fox 2 in St. Louis. Coach, I'm wondering what your message was for Larry Roundtree, who is going to participate in the Senior Bowl and so won't be back and didn't have a chance to compete in the bowl game. And then you mentioned Kiki. Do you have any expectations that you'll learn anytime soon about Mayadi and the others who you've openly campaigned to have return?
Yeah, my message to Larry Roundtree was love him, love his competitive spirit, love the way he left this program. He left it better than he found it. Competed his butt off every day. It was a joy to be around. Came in unheralded, left as the most productive running back in Mizzou football history, which is a hell of an accomplishment. Disappointed he was 29 yards short of 1,000 yards, and I know that was important to him and wish we could have got that for him. But as unselfish as he is, he had an opportunity to stay in the last 2 drives of the Mississippi State game and gave him to Elijah because he knew he wanted to get in that bowl game. So he's an unselfish player, unselfish teammate. And I don't know that you can say anything more about a young man than those 2 words. I'll have conversations with Mike and some of these other guys, and ultimately, no different than with Larry Borum and Nick Bolton. Everybody's journey is uniquely theirs, and we'll support them and cheer for them. However, their journey turns out for them. But anybody who wants to come back is going to have to make a total commitment to closing the gap. And those guys are going to, they played a lot of ball, and they know what it takes, and they're going to have to get their minds and bodies right if they want to come back and do this again. And so, that's a tough decision that I don't think you can make in just a snap of the finger. And so we'll let those guys have the proper time to digest it.
Dave Matter?
I had a question for Jim, if that's all right.
Absolutely.
Jim, I know bowl payouts are all distributed evenly, and they do that later in the year. How does it work with 3 SEC teams that were committed to playing in a bowl now can't? Some of those games aren't even happening now, like this one. Have you gotten any kind of explanation?
No, we haven't discussed that on our 101 Zoom calls or whatever we've had. But I would expect after the season, after the bowl seasons are complete, then we'll get a breakdown of that. But I have not had that conversation.
Mm-hmm. Thanks.
Eric Blum?
My question would be for both Eli or Jim, whoever wants to go first. Obviously, Eli, you said you're not an epidemiologist, but you've mentioned kind of how the virus is going across the country. Obviously, the next big thing is kind of a vaccine and it being distributed. Do either one of you have hope or whatever the right word may be for how the 2021 season would go if the vaccine kind of is on point with how things looked for it to be across the country?
I'll just start and then Eli can jump in. But, from what we've heard from our task force and our university healthcare folks, that they're expecting, the vaccine to be widely distributed by spring, sometime March, April type of thing, where most people would have been vaccinated. So with that, I would think that we could have the opportunity, I'm hopeful for the opportunity for a more normal season. We can't go back to back. This one was hard. As Eli said, it's been a long haul, emotionally, physically, all those things, for the players, for the coaches but I think everyone can be really proud of how they handled it. All those challenges and balancing all the changes and everything that was put in front of them. So excited about the future. Yeah, I would be hopeful that the season's more of a normal one.
Bill Pollock.
Yeah, question is for Jim. On top of all the testing your team was doing Christmas morning, there's an explosion in downtown Nashville. Can you kind of take us through discussions that you had with the bowl? Is there a point where there's talk of cancellation? Is there concern amongst the Mizzou family of traveling there? Just kind of what happened in those 24, 48 hours from Christmas morning?
Yeah, obviously, a lot of concern and for the folks there, but also, what was it going to be safe? But I just want to compliment Scott Ramsey and his staff, and he was getting reports almost immediately, from the Metro Police, from the FBI, and just assurances that things were safe there, that they planned on, both from the Titans and that their stadium was going to be safe and that Nashville was going to be safe. They had cordoned off 6 blocks or so, but expected it to be lifted. I'm not sure of the status right now, but they did a great job of informing us and keeping us up to date.
Last question from Ben Hockman.
Eli, I just want to ask you a more football-y question. You said the phrase "closing the gap," I think twice in this call. Is that a phrase you use, whether it's recruiting or in the SEC division, whatever it is? The idea of closing the gap.
I mean, I just think that's internally for me what I see we have to do. We got to close the gap. There's a gap between us and the upper echelon of the SEC, and that's why they brought me here to try to close it. And so, 365, 24/7. That's my job, and I think we took steps in that direction this year. I think, ultimately we're establishing the culture that I think will close the gap, but I've got to do a better job, both in schemes, schematically, in leadership, in player development, in recruiting, to make that a reality. I don't know that that's going to be a quick fix. I don't believe it will be a quick fix. Not at a place like Mizzou. I think you're going to have to build it one step at a time. I've used this phrase several times. The journey of 1,000 miles begins with one step. We took one step. We took a step in the right direction this year. If you would have asked me on one of these calls in the middle of June or July, if I honestly believed or assessed that we would be 5-5 at the end of this season, I'm not sure that answer would have been truthful if I would have said yes. But working with this team, working with this coaching staff, working with our players and our organization, the resiliency that they've shown each and every game and each and every week to fight, I think gives me hope. But there are still a lot of things that we need to do in order to close that gap. And like I said, whether it's within an organization, whether it's with scheme, whether it's with player development, with strength and conditioning, with nutrition, with prehab, rehab, whatever it is, with recruitment, whatever it is, I'm going to relentlessly attack it for the next however long I have this job. And quite honestly, I'm not going to quit until we get that gap closed, or they tell me I'm not the right guy to do it.